Well, welcome to A Word in Your Attic with Danny Kelly. Danny, it's
Hello, everyone.
delightful.
That's sensational.
It's
Lovely to see you both. How are you all doing? Good?
We're fine. We're fine.
doing really good. And Danny, you're in rural Ireland, aren't you?
Yeah, I moved
am
here
I
about
right?
2 years ago back to the sort of a place where my people came out of, and my mum and my sister live about 12 miles across the river. Unfortunately, I can't go and spend any time with them at the moment, but actually, as we're recording this, is my sister's birthday. So I am going to do the traditional drive-by birthday greetings that I up to now have been to preserve teenagers, but I'm doing it today. So as soon as we finish this, I'm going to go
waving a balloon.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, throwing a piece of cake through the letterbox.
It's been a joy. And Mark, you watch it, look at my Twitter, and somebody who is very, very London to suddenly live in bucolic splendour up in the mountains, it's amazing. As I was once said to you before, I'm pretty urban. I was brought up right slap bang in the middle of London, and I still remember the day when we were about 6 at school. The nuns came and said, right, form up in ranks of 2 and hold hands, and they marched us to a place called Highbury Fields to, quote, see the trees. Most of us have never seen a tree. So that's how urban I used to be. And now, Mark,
You're making up for it now.
I'll tell you how country I am now. I own a chainsaw. Live through that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I must say, I'm in far more
you have
danger
bonfires.
right now. I'm in far more danger from the chainsaw than I am from the virus, I promise you.
Now, when you moved out there, one of your major considerations was you had to move an awful lot of records. How many did you move?
I moved, I would think, about 15 to 20,000 albums. I've never counted them. Certainly more than 15, because you can believe you've got yours lined up behind you there, David. You can tell, a rack holds 100, then you multiply it, and probably that many singles as well. The plan was, and I don't mind saying this, and I hope people don't think I'm showing off, because there'll be plenty of that later on, was to convert the old pig houses that accompanied the farmhouse I bought. After much chin stroking from architects, they said, you can't do that, Danny. This is what's called a raft building. It's held up only by the thickness of the stones, because it had no foundations, and the horse shit that they used to help bind the stones together 100 years ago. So last August, we knocked these buildings down, myself, my cousin, who's a builder, and the guy with the machine, and we all three of us cried at the sight of this old building going down. However, we built a modern building to hold my records and my books and things, and we used the old stones to reface the building's exactly the size and shape of the original one, and it's now faced with the original stones. In 5 years' time, people who used to live here 80 years ago come back and say, "Oh, see, that's not changed." But inside, it's very modern, and it's a cathedral to my records.
Inside, there are 20,000 reggae albums. And I think, hang on, this wasn't here before.
There's a lot. It's a cultural incongruence. I try not to play the pogues too much as I drive around Ireland, because it seems to me that would be too much of a cliche.
Yeah.
I'll wait till I get back to London for purposes.
You've got a few things out to show us, bit of show and tell for the people.
Yeah, and I haven't, except for one case, I haven't gone for the most rare or valuable records. We'll get onto that. Just things that take me through a journey through my own record collecting life. As I said, I grew up right in central London. The family next door, West Indian, and the parents of the kids who I knocked around with played reggae music, 68, 69, the classic when Rocksteady was turning into reggae. And I became slightly obsessed with the kids. I next door hated it. They just called it old people's music.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, of course. They liked David Bowie and Slade. Yeah, of course it did. And so the first record I ever bought, the first album I ever owned, is that.
Oh, yes.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
That is David Ansel Collins' Double Barrel, right? We all know that reggae records sold in truckloads at that time, but they weren't in the chart return shop. David Ansel Collins' Double Barrel was so good that it went to #1. Now, two things about this. A, it's a great record. Let me just tell you that. Ansel Collins is a fantastic organ player, and Dave Parker had perfected the kind of James Brown yelp by that stage, hadn't he? Now, of course, the cover will be controversial in the modern world, because in the barrels, or the double barrel, you can see that naked lady. Now, two things about this. That woman is one of the great unsung heroes of rock and roll. She is the receptionist at Trojan Records headquarters in Neasden, right? And she is on all those naked black ladies on the cover of all the Trojan albums.
That's a fantastic story.
I didn't know
I remember
that.
her name. You can look her up. I can't remember her name, but she's one of the great. Now, of course, naked black ladies, not such a big thing in America. So let me just get this up for you. Here is the American cover.
Oh, she's
Oh, right, okay.
She has been expunged. Like one of Stalin's enemies, she's gone.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So that's the first record I ever owned. I love it to this day, and I wouldn't swap it for anything.
And those were the guys that Madness got Heavy Monster sound and Don't Watch That, Watch This, wasn't it? Didn't they nick that from their records? Yeah.
It was only the other day.
Collins. Sorry?
It was only the other day that I discovered on social media that Dave and Ansel Collins were not brothers.
No, they're
It
not
was
brothers.
Ansel Collins and a mate called Dave.
It's Dave and Ansel Collins. That's right.
I
thought they were brothers.
He is Dave Barker.
Dave Barker.
And you can look up any one of his records is worth chasing up. He, as I say, he's a very decent singer, but also then he learned to do the then popular toasting, as they call it, MCing, DJing, call it what you like, and perfected various James Brown style ululations, which is what that record essentially is, isn't it? Yeah. That's all I wanted to say about that. The other thing, it's actually not it's not all I want to say about that. The great thing as well, David, as well as Dave, the reason why these records are often so weirdly labelled, reggae singles in particular, is that they're made in Jamaica. And I want you to bear in mind when we talk about something else later on. In the 70s, from about 68 to 78, Jamaica produced more vinyl records, singles, than any other country in the world except America. Now think about that. It's a population of 5 million, and they're hand pressing them. I mean, and it'll come on sort of later on. I'll tell you why I find all this stuff so fascinating. But the tapes will then be sent to London to be put out on Blue Beat, on Blue Cat, all those labels in London as well. But they were talking on the phone down a crackly line to me, what's this called? And they so many names, the names of the records bear no relation to the original title. And someone's, well, who is this by? Oh, it's Dave and Ansel Collins. And that's how it comes to be Dave and Ansel Collins.
Fantastic.
Now, I might move forward a little bit. Everybody, it's one thing becoming interested in music when you're a kid, as I became because of that. You need something that opens your mind and blows your mind. I couldn't afford to buy records. Any records I had tend to be presents. But then a nice thing happened to me. When I was in my early teens, 13, 14, a junk shop opened opposite St Mary's Church in Upper Street in Islington. It was an old chap, a very shiny suit, and he's just sold what I think in the modern parts we call crap. He sold crap. But out the front of the crap shop, he had a bin where he put records. And this changed quite frequently, because I think the local heads were getting hold of it. But I would get off the bus on the way home from school, and with the few pence I had pocket money. This was before I even had a Saturday job. And the records were incredibly cheap, and most of them were, of course, Hammond organ samplers and things like that. But if ever I saw anything unusual, I knew nothing about this sort of stuff, like everybody else. I knew about soul music, I knew about reggae, rock music, unlike you two, was a complete mystery to me. Essentially, I'd follow top of the pot. But then, if I saw anything unusual, I bought it. So from the same junk shop, I've got 3 items here I want to show you. This is my copy of the Groundhogs.
Oh, yes.
Who Will Save the World? Now, what teenager in their right mind wouldn't buy that record? Look at it.
Fantastic sleeve by a Marvel comic cartoonist, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes, and it opens out several ways.
Oh, God, brilliant.
Yes, it opens out several ways.
I love that band.
And I paid 50 pence for this record. I remember it distinctly. You wouldn't get 50 pence now, I think, as Danny Baker would say. And I love it to this day, Mark. I understand you saw them in 1971. I
saw them at the Wheatley Festival at 3 o'clock in the morning.
They were.
Ken Postelnik did a kind of 20-minute drum solo. And we all thought it was great.
To relate to the previous record, they were a heavy monster sound, weren't they?
They really were.
Why did the Groundhogs never become fashionable? I'm asking
I
you
don't
two.
Well, they also supported the Stones, didn't they? Stones loved they supported the Stones in '71.
It was the way they
recorded a live album called Live at Leeds. Amazingly, I think.
Yeah.
It was the way they looked. I think that helped.
Yeah,
there were no lookers in the band.
Tony's thin hair. I mean, very fashionable now, obviously, but
yeah.
And the same shop. And again, I thought I was going to show you Troutmask Replica, but I can't find my copy. But at the same time as I bought Troutmask Replica, I got this.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
It's an American pressing.
Is that with does it like an envelope?
No.
At the back? Oh, right.
No, that one doesn't.
Oh, brilliant.
Took this home, and for a person who was, pretty impressed if people could make 3 lines rhyme. To go home and hear things like, you know, some of the songs on here, it was one of the reasons why I just knew that music was going to be a path for me, or I'd end up working for you two, in fact. There's a line on it, isn't there, where he goes, we may be hungry, but we sure ain't weird.
Yeah.
And you thought, yeah, that's where I'm going. But the same shop. One day I went to the shop, and now I had, as you know, just as I'm interested in reggae music, somehow he had got hold of it, I owned it, thousands of Blue Beat singles, absolutely mint. Now, they were still in the boxes, those of you who ever worked in a record shop, of 25 that singles used to arrive in, and they were in a black plastic bin. I had enough money to buy half a dozen of them. I wish I could go back in a TARDIS now. I know everyone says that on this, I'm sure. This is one of them. This is the brilliant record Leave Earth by Derek Morgan.
All right.
Absolutely pristine. Played by me a few times, but absolutely pristine. These records are now like hen's teeth, and I'll tell you for why. When the VAT laws came in, purchase tax as it was originally called, most record companies would pay the tax, and that would be the done of it. The reggae labels didn't. This is going to make people weep. They preferred to not pay the tax and then destroy the stock when it didn't sell. There are photographs out the back of Trojan's offices in Neasden with a skip with a man with a sledgehammer showing the tax man that he's smashing the records up so as to avoid the purchase
vandalism.
tax.
Oh, that's just a
cultural. Yeah, I mean, I know people go on about Pol Pot, but I mean that was much worse, wasn't it?
I'm amazed nobody's made a film about Trojan records.
Yeah. That's brilliant.
What with the girl on reception posing for the covers?
Yeah. Incidentally, you say covers again, about the same thing. I can't think of his name now, but I recently helped to crowdfund an astonishing book. Stay there. I'm going to go and get it. Stay there.
We'll talk among ourselves.
Right.
Yeah. That's brilliant.
That's
I thought it's. I'm sorry he didn't have Troutmaster Replica, which surely is key thing about Troutmaster Replica, Dave. Surely that 20 tracks were recorded in 6 hours. 20 instrumentals in 6 hours.
Yeah.
Averaging one every 20 minutes. Astonishing.
I do prefer Strictly Personal.
No, it's far more listenable. That's right.
It's far more listenable.
Yeah.
Personal's great. I'm back now.
Go on, you're back.
Here's a book called Covers.
Oh, right, a bow and Liquidator.
I helped to crowdfund it by a man called Alex Barch. And what Alex did, he's Dutch, was he took the covers of all the reggae records of the 60s and 70s that were shot in London. Now, there was no great effort made with the covers. They just were the artist shot on some steps or somewhere, or not, often just outside houses. And what he's done, he's gone back and found the original venues.
Oh, really?
And superimposed the album. Find a good one for you.
Oh, I know the kind of thing. Yeah.
I've seen this book. Yeah.
Peter Tosh, Buckingham Palace.
The
cover of Peter Tosh's
in front of Buckingham Palace.
That's
lovely.
wonderful.
Where is another good sleeve to show you? That's more obscure. The cover of Liquidator. Everyone knows it's a 1911 Trojan album. The building still stands. And so there's the cover superimposed on the actual building. It's called Covers, and I recommend it to those of you who haven't heard it.
Oh, God, that's amazing.
Yeah. So now you two can stop talking. I'll just carry on.
I know.
So then I become obsessed with the music and the music papers, which you two are working on well ahead of me. Not because you're older, it's because you're cleverer. And I was one of those kids. The other day, I tweeted out, I showed you, I've got maybe 5 feet of Dylan albums, all of them, and then all the real weird repressings and a load of live albums and a load of bootlegs. And I thought, I know I haven't played for a long time. The basement tapes. Now, again, people recognise this. Here's an absolutely bog standard copy of the basement tapes.
Yeah.
And inside, the young people, what are they like? There's the review.
That's gorgeous.
That is Charles Shaw Murray's review from the inside of the NME. And of course, I'd like to say, Charlie Murray and the NME never changed. It is pretty sniffy.
I was going to say, it's, 0 out of 10, rubbish. See me could do better. Yeah. A bit rough and ready, not finished.
Right. It actually, this is Bob Dylan's Basement Tapes, one of the lodestones of popular music, right? It ends with, the review ends with, you pay your money and you take your chances.
It's classic. Let me just interject at this point that Charles Shaw Murray once reviewed a reissue of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band for Q magazine. Gave it 3 stars. I said, Charlie, are you sure?
Well, Mark, you're looking at a man.
Jesus, Mary Chain get 4, you know.
You're looking at a man who asked to review the Byrds Younger Than Yesterday. Said in 1967 there was one great psychedelic album, and maybe this is it. So Charles Shaw Murray's not on his own.
Fair enough.
It's a wonderful. Sgt. Pepper's a wonderful technical achievement. And Howard Goodall's documentary about it blew my mind. But I still think it's a bit twee in places and a bit too English for me. And I'd always go Revolver or Rubber Soul if the gun was put against my head. Luckily, you're not going to put a gun against my head.
Moving on.
So 2 stars, in fact.
No, moving on. So I become a rock journalist, and all that entails, and you lot know how it all goes and everything. And I was the NME at first initially before David gave me the job at Q. Thank you very much, David. It was a turning point in my life, and for the better. But I never got involved with musicians. I knew that was all the way the road to hell, because they're going to turn on you. But in one case, and I chose one case, and this is a good story, I hope. I thought I will take an album to get autographed, because he's such an important part of my life. So I'm going to West London to a posh boutique hotel to interview Lou Reed.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. I could just tell the way that was building up.
There's my copy of my favourite Lou Reed album.
Oh, really?
Bells.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Bells is the best record because, I mean, it's got the second side, All Through the Night, the long, slow, expositional jazz beat. People will laugh, but if it was Robert Wyatt, people would be wetting their knickers over it, you know. Then there's Families, which is his only truly autobiographical song about him and his dad and his sister. And it ends with the refrain, someone tell me, why do people from the suburbs always seem to make each other cry? And you want to weep yourself. I mean, the Bells itself is a long, strange, unfolding thunderclap of a song. It's a brilliant record. And it's signed by Lou Reed to Danny. Okay? 2 things.
Cheers, Danny.
And how did that go? Presumably you said, Danny, come on in. Fantastic. Find a beer, please. Bring a private chair. Sandwiches.
So first of all, we go into the Halcyon. You all remember the Halcyon Hotel?
Oh, yeah.
He's in one of the private rooms in the Halcyon. And in order to get into, he's now sat in the bay window, big Edwardian bay window, which had a kind of lace curtain in front of it. In order to get in to see him, I'm quite a tall man. I've got to bow down to get underneath the curtainage to get in to talk to him. So already there's that. I had 2 things with me. One, this copy of the Bells, and another, a photograph of Lou Reed that one of the NME's photographers had taken in his early days. So could you get Lou to sign that for me? I'm not going to mention the photographer because he's quite spiky. Lou signed this, and I said, no, I've got this photograph as well. You might want to... I'm not signing that, he said. It's shit. Was exactly what he said to me. Now, when I got outside, having done the interview, it was a time of Drella, the LP Maybe John Cale, which I'm very fond of. I got outside, I did what I always do, checked the tape recorder, and for the first and only time in my life, a fucking thing hadn't worked, hadn't recorded. And now I've got Lou Reed, the most difficult, and it was a terrible interview, terrible. You ask him all these questions about the great songs on the Bells, and he goes, I played that one in D minor. What? I don't care. I don't care what string you were playing it on. Tell me about the song. I had to go and make up the interview. Now we're all friends together here, rock journalists, and
we've all done it.
Anyone who says you haven't made up an interview is a liar, right?
Absolutely.
Because the great thing about musicians, they don't remember.
Improving the audio.
As long as you say, I love their current album, they don't care what you write.
And as long as you make them really quotable, they think, I must have been brilliant.
I love it. So that's one of the very few records I've ever got autographed. I feel bad about that now. I wish I'd done more. But now I'm getting towards the end of the records, but not really. Now I'm going to show you something now that may not even exist. It's a myth. It's a chimera. That is a single, right?
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I've got Bob written on it twice. My collection of reggae records is bizarrely deep and wonderful. I'm very proud of it. No one ever sees it, but I don't know why I'm so proud of it. It's just and of course, because of this incredible phosphorescent volcano of creativity in Jamaica, the studios just churned out stuff. They didn't know what they were doing. They were working day and night. Bob Marley. By the time he got to, I love Bob. By the time he got to Ireland, and we all know Catch a Fire sets the thing going, and then Matty Dread's a huge hit. I think it's fair to say that by the time he signed to Ireland in Britain, Bob Marley had already made all the great music he was going to make. He made many other fine records. Exodus is a wonderful album. But the greatest music he had made was already behind him in the incredible outpouring, hundreds of records. And I've got 1,000 Bob Marley singles. I mean, obviously, a lot of them are repeats of Exodus, but the story is of this one. This is probably one of the very, very rarest Bob Marley singles. It probably is the rarest. He first became interested in about 67 in the Rastafarian faith. He went to see the Rastafarian elder Mortimer Plana. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. And they recorded this song. It is called Selassie is the Chapel, and it's Bob Marley doing a gospel reading of Elvis Presley's Crying in the Chapel, itself a gospel record, of course. The myth is that Plana pressed up about 50, some mystical number actually, I think it was about 50, and sent 25 immediately to Ethiopia, like you do, right, for Rastafarian reasons. The truth is that he pressed up a couple of hundred, and later on repressed a couple of hundred. It's been bootlegged enormously. But if you can get hold of a copy of Bob Marley's Selassie's The Chapel, chances are it's a bootleg. Except I took this to an expert, and he thought it's brilliant. It was like authenticating Hitler diaries. He goes, the paper suggests it is about the right time, mid-60s, late 60s. I'm suggesting that you either got one of the original records there. It's very unlikely. I said a handful. Or one of the early represses of 200. Try tracking it down, people. I don't know. I don't know whether it's the quality of the music. You can get the music on a CD now, of course. It's just the fact that it's been through those hands, hand pressed at Mortimer Plana's, wherever he went to get it pressed, in Jamaica. Actually, still now, it's setting what's left of my hair on end, just thinking about it. And I've got a million of these. The Lee Perry boxes are full of records that, you can see his handwriting on some of them, and there's a way in which that kind of music, you can get in touch with it a lot more than the mass-produced rock music that I love so much as well.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a few more treasures to show you here, and then a story. I have loads of weird sub-collections within my collection. So music about space, various other things, lots of things. All music made on a Moog synthesizer when it first came out to demonstrate the power of Dr. Bob's invention. But I also love
have you got Lothar and the Hand People?
All that stuff. The more
that's an early theremin and Moog thing, isn't it? Yeah.
The more ridiculous they are, Moog plays the Beatles meets Bach, the more happy I am. Oh, I love poetry. I love the language, you might have guessed. I love poetry on records, and and whether it's right up to now, Kate Tempest, gotta have it on vinyl, and a lot of poetry came out in the past. And two of my favourites are Dylan Thomas and W.B. Yeats, for various reasons. Bob Dylan, Dylan Thomas, W.B. Yeats, and Ireland, all the rest of it. And I was flicking through my poetry collection the other day, and there's 6 foot of albums, and I came across this. Now, this is Dylan Thomas reading the poetry of W.B. Yeats, right?
Fabulous.
Beautiful cover.
I wouldn't just bring this to you because of this. It's never been opened.
Are you going to do it?
It's from 1954, and somehow I bought it, and it's never been opened.
So it's an American shrink-wrapped...
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It says there, made in the USA.
Oh...
That's fabulous.
And David, I'll bring this back to the Beatles for you, the two of you. I recently acquired at an auction in Southend all of the original pressings of Yoko Ono's LPs on Apple.
All right.
Good luck with those.
Yeah, I haven't played them yet. But when I got them home, I realised they'd not been played. They had not been taken out of the bags. And so things like Approximately Infinite Universe has the original poster in it. It's never been unfurled. I don't know what to do. Do I leave it there, like Tutankhamun's tomb, for the next person to discover? Do I take it out, have it framed as a work of art in its original condition? Or I don't know what to do with it. I'm not, and you know, David, I'm not that foolish. I'm not going to open it on here. You know, I don't know what to do. I'll tell you what I'll do. In the modern way, I'll do a poll on Twitter as to what I should do with the Approximately Infinite Universe. Try saying that when during the lockdown you've knocked out a front tooth and you can't go to a dentist. Long story. That's why when I work in my normal work, I talk about football. I hate when we get to the phrase financial fair play. I've got a lot of sibilants. Nor do I want the band Fishbone, and Zorn too often either. Now, I suppose a lot of people who collect records get to the end of their collection, they become too old for the popular music and all the rest of it. Unfortunately for me, I've continued to buy records at a great pace. And I'm obsessed with hip hop. I love hip hop. I mean, goodness, look at me. What sense does it make? But I've always loved it, and I love it now. And two things have happened. One, and David, I'm looking at you and Mark, who would have been in the music business when this was all happening. All those singles you were sent by hip hop bands from America in the early 90s, the golden age, the absolute sweet spot for hip hop, as it gets called now, the so-called golden age. Everything on the Paul Chilling label, all those ultramagnetic MCs singles that were sent. Yeah. They're incredibly valuable. The 7-inch singles are the ones that, because it was a music that was on cassette and 12-inch single, the 7-inch singles, in America, only promos for radio stations to play, and in Britain, we still had 7-inch singles in picture sleeves often. So your Big Daddy Kane singles are just now beyond hen's teeth. The other side of this is that hip-hop, which was a throwaway, disposable culture when it came out, has now become regarded as art. And has been treated in the same way that what we talked earlier on about Sgt. Pepper. I think the record company recognised that it was a work of art, and hence the incredible packaging that was afforded it. This is now happening in hip-hop in two ways. Firstly, all the old records that were originally thrown out in cartoon sleeves are now being reissued. That is the latest issue of Snoop Dogg's first LP, Doggy Style. It's fantastic, of course it is. It comes with bits and pieces that come off it. It comes with, I don't know where one would ever use the stencil that it comes with to make the words doggy dog on the wall. And they've gone to great trouble to make beautiful multi-colored vinyl pressings. The upshot of that is that I'm buying a lot of reissues are exactly like that, but and in a weird echo of the Jamaica we talked about in the 60s and 70s, most of the great hip-hop music has now been made completely underground by artists who follow in the footsteps of a man called MF Doom, who is the greatest manipulator of the English language alive today. Since Seamus Heaney died, I think I can say that. Doom is better with the English language now. And fans, born in England. Although he's been in America a long time, amazing story about his life being shredded when his younger brother is killed in front of him by a car in a car crash, goes away for 10 years, stops being one hip-hop artist, becomes back as another one, masked and all the rest of it. He has set off, or largely set off, the independent hip-hop scene. The kids there, and a lot of them are not kids, some of them are middle-aged men as well, they record a lot and they put out everything. And they put it out in very limited, coloured vinyl editions, and your correspondent is poorer now than you've ever known him. As a result of all,
it all goes there.
I should have gone and got some of the Fahim the God records or whatever it is that's driving me, West Side Gun, who's driving me mad currently at the moment. They are all unbelievably beautiful editions, and they come out, as I say, they put out an album every 3 months. It's fantastic. That's my journey. You asked me for a few bits of memorabilia. That.
Oh, all right.
That is the. Give me. That is the poster from Clash's White Riot tour that I personally tore off the wall in the gig in Nottingham, when I was following them around the country in a Vauxhall, in a powder blue Vauxhall Viva 1100, much beloved of the Manic Street Preachers. Whenever I meet one of those, they always are, tell us about the Vauxhall Viva. They always say. Look, this is how it works, right? The Manic Street Preachers hate me because I've seen the Clash 100 times, right? I hate people who saw Jimi Hendrix at the Bag of Nails in London. And I remember Pete Townsend being interviewed. Somebody said to him, and of course, Pete, you saw Jimi Hendrix at the Bag of Nails. And he went, oh, fuck off, I'm with Charlie Parker. So everybody has got one that they pass down the line.
Yeah.
Excuse my language, but that's what Pete said.
Yeah.
That's the original post. I've got as much memorabilia as I have. No, that's not true. I've got some memorabilia, not as much as I've got records. The truth of the matter is I was too lazy to dig it all out for you today. But a couple of bits and pieces. My love of early 70s and 70s soul music is also pretty deep. And I don't know, I spend a lot of time, sober, but a lot of time on eBay. And sometimes things just come up. I love Curtis Mayfield. I think he's one of the greatest songwriters ever. And this is an original contract for Curtis Mayfield to write a song. He's being employed by Billy Butler. Those of you who know your VJ records will know that Billy Butler was the lead singer of a band called Billy Butler and the Enchanters. And
does it say what he was paid to do that?
It does indeed, yeah. He's getting 50%. He gets 3 cents per copy of sheet music sold, and 50% of all the net sums received by the publisher in respect of regular piano copies and orchestrations.
But no fee. So it's just a percentage.
It's just a percentage. It's signed it's a standard songwriters contract on the 19th day of August 1963. That's Curtis's, let me get it right for you, Curtis's signature on the back of it.
Right.
And Billy Butler.
No fee, so immense incentive to write a hit.
Well, he probably got a fee as well, but that's probably just to the royalties.
Paragraph G, an equal amount of 50% of all the net proceeds received and actually retained by the publisher arising out of one, the manufacturer of parts, and something to do with the manufacture of instruments. In fact, if you go and look it up, the song, which is called I Found Love, ends up on the B-side of the very first Billy Butler and the Enchanters 45 on VJ. The diving in and out of black culture has led me to a magazine called Jet. It was a tiny little magazine. This is the last thing I'm going to tell you about, and you can tell me how great it was. A tiny little magazine called Jet, about yay big. And it was all about black achievement. And
I know about Jet, right, yes.
So this is the cover. I've got one here, I've got many, but this is the cover of their 1976 Christmas edition.
Brilliant. Oh, that's
absolutely
brilliant.
There's Marvin on the cover of Jet.
As Santa.
As Santa.
That is classic.
And that's about where I think I'll leave. Oh no, sorry, from inside, there's a picture, forgive me, of Richard Pryor before he went on the gear.
So, Danny, you're at home.
There's an intense competition between you and Danny Baker. And Danny doesn't like hip-hop, and I don't think he likes jazz that much, and I don't think he likes reggae. So you presumably have more records than
I have
than
more.
Danny Baker.
His is a more intense dive into it, and and I'm going to be totally honest about this. If you are interested in British and American rock music from 67 to 73, in all of its manifestations, it's an extraordinary collection. It has depth. Mine has width. We don't compete much. If he's told you that he's a liar, of course he's a liar. And what happens is, if I find anything particularly interesting by David Bowie, for instance, that I know he'd want, I just send it to him.
Yeah.
What happened? What was it the other day? Something turned up, and I said want, and he just said yes. And if he's in a shop where it says a load of previously unheard Keith Hudson 45s, they come winging my way. It's competitive friendship, and of course, all men of a certain age are competitive, but it's not like that. It's not like it's not a measuring contest. Put it like that.
No.
And the most you've ever paid for one record? We're talking about this.
Yeah. Sal Blesser is in earshot, so I've got to be careful here. I remember going to a record fair 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, and I got in touch with the dealer. I don't know what, because in those days they used to come through the post, a list of records and the things that you wanted. And he had two incredibly rare Bob Marley LPs, one of Lee Perry's sub-labeled Maroon, I think one of them was. And of course you can't. Why wouldn't you buy a record called Soul Revolution? Of course you're going to buy that record. And he also had a very rare British reggae record, a Lee Perry thing called Natty Pass Through Rome, by Jarmusch, I think. And the three of them, I gave him, this is 20 years ago, £1,000 for. I remember going and getting the cash. But Mark, you
could have bought a three-bedroom house in Ladbroke Grove.
You could have bought a street in Hull and set yourself up as the mayor. But I think it might have been during the internet boom when I thought I was a billionaire.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, which turned out not to be true, sadly.
What are they worth now, those records?
I've no idea. You get the right person, you get another version of me. They go for hundreds still. I don't think it's not like driving a Bentley off the forecourt like you, Mark. They don't just depreciate in front of you,
I wish.
Danny, it's been an absolute pleasure.
It always is.
Talking to you. And we'll look back to linking up again when this bloody war is over, as we say.
Absolutely. And for those of you like myself and Mark, who I count as friends but never see, I think we are beginning to understand now why public houses were invented. Yes. And I think we may well have to deal with that issue when we get back to London.
Look forward to it, Danny.
Bless you all.
Cheers.
Fantastic.
Bless you all, everyone. Stay safe.
Cheers.
Bye-bye now. Bye.